Howdy ho all, BCTV's Roland, Boyden here. We're going to do a quick tutorial on Google Plus Hangouts live on air and all the raw potential there, whether you're creating a short single angle video or creating a dynamic multifaceted presentation all from scratch, all using Google Plus and the Hangouts live on air feature set. Okay, let's launch in here. I'm going to show you how I set this all up to be switching back and forth between PowerPoints, a camera angle, and my screen scrape of what's going on the screen here in a moment. But I'll start with just a basic setup here with talking about what you need. So in order to make this work, you're going to need a Google Plus account. Sounds simple enough. A lot of you probably already have Google Plus accounts, but if you don't, it's relatively simple to sign up. You can actually just go to Google Plus, enter all the information, you get a username. This will all link to a YouTube account as well that we'll get to in a second. And then right when you're signing up, there's a prove you're not a robot feature here. And if you do this, it'll send a verification code to a phone number that you put in. It'll either call you or text you, and you can put that in. It'll save a lot of hassle in the future. This will authorize your account to do things like stream live and post all these videos. It'll prove that you're not a spam bot, and they'll thank you for that. A couple of the things you'll need to get started here. We're talking about doing this on a laptop or a desktop computer, so that's just worth briefly noting. If you're uploading a single angle video, you can do that from a tablet or smartphone using the Google Plus app or the YouTube app and direct upload from there. And there's some great quality webcams being built into smartphones and tablets now. But for this sort of alternate to a switcher master control setup that we're talking about here, where you're going to be adding graphics and switching back and forth between your PowerPoint and your image and all of those things, like I'm doing here with this Google Plus broadcast. That's going to be handled through either a laptop or maybe a desktop computer with a webcam. So you will need one of those. It can go all the way back to XP on Windows and back to Snow Leopard on Mac. The newer you get, the better it does seem to work, but we haven't had any problems running it on Windows 7. I'm running it on Mountain Lion here on my MacBook, so no issues there. Then you're going to need a webcam or a camera, and I'm going to go into those options in a little bit. And audio is a big one, so you're going to need to think about some kind of audio setup so you're not using the built-in microphone. So those are just some of the things we need. Again, I'll touch base more before we really launch into the how-tos with some of the camera and audio options. But to get started, you are going to need to download the Google Hangouts plugin. And this used to be just the Google Voice plugin, but now they've kind of expanded it to include anything to do with Google Hangouts. So if you are used to using Gmail chat or making phone calls from your Gmail account, they probably prompted you to download a new version of what was the Google Voice, Google Chat plugin. Now the Google Hangouts plugin, you can just search Google Hangouts plugin, and it'll come up. It'll give you an option once you've signed into your account to download the plugin here. Pick a language. It's really easy. Doesn't even require a system restart, just a browser restart. But you will need to install that. And then once we get into Google Plus, you are going to want to download the Google Hangouts plugin as well. We'll touch back on that in a moment. And then if you are going to add any graphics to the broadcast, you're going to want to create those in advance. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to properly do that, including how to properly mat them, because Google will allow you to import your own graphics from places like Photoshop, but it's not going to let you make too many adjustments to them. And then you're going to want to hook up your camera and your audio, and that will transition us into our next slide. If I can, in fact, switch back here to the PowerPoint broadcast. So what are your options here for how you hook up a setup here? Well, when it comes to the camera, you can use the built-in webcam on your laptop. Most likely that's a pretty good quality webcam, and if it's a recent computer, it probably does up to 720p, 1280 by 720, which the Google Plus Live Hangout on Air application will broadcast at, so you'll get an HD signal. You can also get a third-party webcam, and you can now get really nice quality HD webcams for under $100. Logitech makes some great ones, and they offer the added benefit of often bringing with them better audio through a microphone setup. So if you can get your audio and your better picture through the same webcam, that's great. you got an older camcorder that has a DV port, you can actually hook it up via FireWire, and that can actually be a good option if you have a camcorder kicking around that has FireWire that's not getting other use. It's not necessarily going to be HD, but it'll be a nice signal. Maybe it's a 3-chip camera that you can hook up. It'll do better in low light. And it'll feed in through the FireWire port, and again, that has the added benefit of including the audio as well. And if you're talking about newer HD camcorders, you're probably going to want to look at getting the signal from one of those via the HDMI or micro HDMI or maybe even SDI HD output on the camera, and that'll require some sort of input device or card. If you're talking about a desktop computer that will take cards, you can get something like a Blackmagic Intensity. If you're talking about a laptop, you could get something like their Intensity Shuttle, which hooks up via Thunderbolt for Mac or USB 3. They also have a great option with their mini studio recorder, and there's a whole lot of other devices out there as well. So perhaps the bigger issue to figure out in advance is the audio. Probably more important really than the video for a lot of what we're doing here. And if you can get good audio into the Google Plus broadcast for your presentation or whatever you're doing, that can make a huge difference. You can, of course, always use the built-in audio, but never really recommend it. So if you can even get something like a headset, a USB gaming headset that has the benefit of including the headphones as well, and headphones can be really important, especially if you're talking about doing a Google Hangout that includes back and forth dialogue between you and some other people on Google Plus. It's a great way to avoid the echo cancellation that Google uses to reduce feedback coming back through your speakers. So if you can put headphones on, you'll get a lot less of that underwater sound, which is really great. And then another great option is a USB DAW I/O, so something that maybe has 2 XLR inputs and then converts to USB to work with various DAW softwares. There's a lot of great options for anywhere from $50 to $200. Some ones out there with really great preamps. I'm using a Steinberg UR22, which has some Yamaha preamps, and that allows me to use XLR inputs, so I can use a whole variety of microphones, especially if you get a DAW I/O that has phantom power, then that opens up a whole lot more microphones. You can also get microphones that are built to work directly with USB, so you plug them straight into your computer, and there's a wide variety of microphones like this as well now. And then another audio option is if you're talking about taking the feed from a camcorder, either through the FireWire or through an HDMI or SDI input device, you can, both of those options include embedded audio. So especially if your camcorder has some good audio inputs like XLR inputs and XLR inputs with phantom power, you can send your microphones directly into your camera, into the XLR inputs, and then it'll feed into Google Plus through your input card through that HDMI or SDI input. So that's a really great option as well. So those are some of the things you're going to want to do to get set up in advance so that your audio is good, your picture is good, and now you're ready to rumble. So let's launch in here. We're going to go to Google Plus. We've signed into our account. We've authorized it, proved to Google that we're not a spam bot. Okay, so we're going to go from our Google Plus homepage once we've signed in, and we're going to go over on the left side below the Home tab, and we're going to click on Hangouts. There's actually right on this landing page a Start a Hangout on Air. That's the key if you want this to go out to YouTube. There's actually a Hangouts on Air tab that'll also get you to the right place. And then you can say Start a Hangout on Air. It'll ask for a little bit of information here. And if you want to share it to specific people, you can. If we're putting this out for a public stream to create a whole program on YouTube, then we don't have to worry about it. I'm going to share this, and that'll launch us into the Google Hangouts on Air by creating a specific event for this. Here it is, my Google Plus demo. I'm going to click Start, and that'll launch me into the Control tab for my Google Plus Hangout on Air. And this is where it all begins. I'm going to skip inviting guests for now and launch in. Okay. So we are going to start by setting up our audio and camera settings. So I went through some of the options you have now. If they are hooked up either via your HDMI input device, FireWire, your USB third-party webcam, they will all show up under this drop-down menu. Right now it's just my FaceTime camera, but those are where all your options are. And then any kind of USB input devices will show up here. Often it'll just say USB audio codec, or if you've created some other kind of audio input setup, you can can as well. And then again, if you are getting audio fed back to you from other members joining this Google Plus broadcast, got to be through headphones. Figure out some other audio that's not going to create feedback, because that's where that echo cancellation comes in from Google and you get that really underwater sound. So I'm going to save these settings, and then we are ready to go here. A couple of the things before we start. Where it says adjust bandwidth use. So let's bring this slider all the way up. Of course, the more bandwidth you have, the better this is going to look. If you do have enough bandwidth to support HD, it'll stream at 1280 by 720 with some really excellent compression that Google's worked out in the last couple of years, and you can get a broadcast quality image over the internet. Okay, so we've set up our bandwidth, we've set up our settings. Now it's going to start by broadcasting on the image of us with the camera. And at this point, if we want to go onto YouTube, we are going to click Start Broadcast, and it's going to tell me that I'm ready to go live. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to prep to take us onto YouTube. At this point, I am streaming on YouTube. Now, there are a couple other things that I can set up in advance of being live, and we're going to go into some of those options, but I have started the broadcast here so that we can actually see what that looks like as I continue to talk here. So the first thing you can do is that's really worth mentioning is use the screen share function. Now, you can do this to in a tutorial fashion if you wanted to bring up other applications. If I wanted to go back and show how to work out install the Google plugin, click screen share, and then I pick the application that I've got open on my laptop that I want to show people and press start screen share. It's going to take me to that application, and I could show you how to download this plugin. In this case, it's one click. So we'll leave it at that. If I wanted to bring up my PowerPoint presentation and hit Start Screen Share, it's going to switch me over to the application that I'm using for it. In this case, I used Keynote to set this up because I'm on a Mac. But if you wanted to do it from PowerPoint or LibreOffice, or even just from Preview with a PDF, such as this here, you could actually start to show people on your video your presentation in a much more dynamic way, where you're switching back and forth between the images and your video. And at any point, you can go back to your Google Hangout tab and press stop on your screen sharing, and it's going to switch back to your camera here. Of course, your audio is going to continue. Moving down the list of the Google options here, we're just going to touch on a few more, although all of these have some really cool potential to them. I mentioned earlier the Google Hangout Toolbox, and this is an install under the apps at the bottom of the left sidebar here. So if you have not installed that yet, it's a quick install, and it gives you a lot more options. So if I click that, you're going to see that it brings up a set of choices along the top, and one I want to bring up is on the far left side of this top bar, a little person in a circle icon. That's going to give me the option to add a lower third, and this just adds a whole nother element to the professionalism of the broadcast. You can even click choose a logo, and if you have a company logo, then when you add this, you can see here it's put up the Google style lower third with my name and the BCTV logo that I picked. We're seeing it in reverse because it's actually putting this up on the screen as a mirror image, so that if I want to make any hand gestures here, it's more like a mirror, which is something you're more familiar with if you're monitoring your own video feed. But if you want to take it a step farther and put up some custom overlays, this is a really great opportunity to really up the production quality. So at this point, I'm going to first upload an overlay that I exported from Photoshop in the improper way, just to show you. So if you don't mat your lower third in a way that's conducive to the video, if you don't end up properly matting your lower third, it's just going to take, so for instance, if you export it as the raw object files, it's going to just stick it in the middle of the screen, and there aren't really any controls for dealing with this in Google Hangout. So it's worth noting that you're going to want to, in Photoshop or whatever you're using, put this on a 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720 canvas, and then export it with a transparent background after getting this lower third in the position that you want, perhaps with a logo involved as well. So let's get my proper mat here so we can see what it should look like. And it's, there we go. And so at that point, you can add graphics, you can add a bug. If you had you were going to involve multiple different speakers, you can actually change these during the live broadcast as if you were a graphics person from a switcher. So just some of the things that the Google Toolbox allows you to do to really up the production quality here. Pretty exciting. Another option that you can do is roll in clips, almost like you had a VTR deck system, and this really adds to that element of this being almost like a mini switcher. And see this little YouTube app. So if you have video links that you want to show people that are available on YouTube, this is probably something you'd want to set up in advance. You create a playlist of videos.
This is BCTV.
But if I wanted to show you a little bit about BCTV and what we were up to in the last year, I could pull up our most recent highlight reel, and I could create a playlist, and then I could roll into this YouTube video here and let people see it. We're going to X out of that for now. So you really have all sorts of different elements of a live switcher here, cutting to your PowerPoint presentation, cutting to other applications on your computer to really show people with a tutorial, using the toolbox to add things like graphics, using your settings to even switch back and forth between camera sources. If you wanted to use your webcam on you and a secondary webcam, USB webcam to get audience or a second presenter, you could actually be live switching back and forth between these cameras as you were talking. Just some of the really exciting options. And at the end of it all, we're going to hit stop broadcast, and this is going to go up as an HD video available on our YouTube channel. So let's do that, and then we'll have the link ready for everybody to watch. So thanks for joining me. Hope this was helpful.